Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 233, cover dated early September 1988. So this is when the title went on sale twice a month. And of course the cover dating September was 2 months ahead, roughly speaking, of when it actually went on sale. So going on sale in June of late June of 1988. So this is a summer bi-monthly schedule. Covered by Marc Silvestri and Dan Green, and featuring a Brood flinging a car at Colossus just as he gets ready to fling one back. So a pretty dynamic cover there, pretty striking on the racks. So let's open this one up, and here is our splash page, picking up from the last page of the previous issue. And indeed, Claremont reprises the dialogue spoken by Harry Palmer, the human paramedic infected by the Brood. Here he is here at the last on the last page of the last issue. We're all of us Brood here, X-Men, and soon old enemies, very soon you will be too. So the X-Men realize they're in trouble here. This is a pretty dramatic opening splash. And let's turn over the page, and here we are into the story proper with another one of these favorites of Silvestri, the double page half splash. And one of the Brood here has a mutant power of breathing fire. So this scatters the X-Men here. Here's our creative team. Chris Claremont, writer, Marc Silvestri, penciler, Dan Green, inker, Tom Orzechowski, letterer, and Glynis Oliver, colorist. Basically the next few pages are the X-Men versus the Brood, which everybody's been looking forward to from the end of the previous issue. Colossus winding up for and punching this particular Brood here, but who's able to withstand his punch and hit as hard as Colossus, because these Brood are all mutants and have powers. This guy says his name is Brickbat because he hits like one. Because Palmer in the previous months has been going around Denver, Colorado, where the story is set, and infecting mutants with Brood eggs. So Storm gets pulled down by one of these Brood here to the ground, and then she's attacked by this one here, Temptress, who calls herself Temptress. And she is, first of all, her thrall, but breaks control and flies up, only to be chased after by this particular Brood who calls himself Dive Bomber. Havok, meantime, is one of the most powerful of the X-Men with his plasma blasts, but he is facing a moral quandary here because he's worried about hitting this guy with one of his blasts, because he knows he'll kill him, because he's only got so much control over the blasts. They're deadly. So then Rogue tackles one of the Brood here and gets infected by, or not infected, but overpowered by Temptress. And the Brood in Temptress is absorbed by Rogue's powers and then takes her over and uses the Temptress powers on Psylocke. So now Psylocke and Rogue are on the Brood team, and Rogue basically punches Wolverine into the rubbish here, and Wolverine now is facing a quandary because, as he says, both have switched sides, and how's he going to fight them without doing real harm, as his claws, his adamantium claws, are popped there. So I like this next sequence with picking up with Colossus's fight with this Brickbat Brood. I like this cartooning here with Orzechowski's lettering suggesting the ferocity of the fight as they're breaking all the windows in the apartment building, and then flying out one of the windows, smashing into the cars. And now we're into the scene that we see on the cover with them throwing cars at each other, ripping up cars and throwing them at each other. Then we switch back to Wolverine and Rogue going at each other. Psylocke combined with the Temptress powers, Psylocke's mental powers and Temptress's powers, they take on, or they overcome rather, Wolverine mentally, because they couldn't take him on physically. He still resists, and then finally it's this guy Lockup who comes in and takes Wolverine out of the fight, and Palmer moves in to impregnate Wolverine with one of those brood eggs. Later on, it's revealed that it's a warrior brood that he impregnates Wolverine with. And then our scene switches to Red Rocks, the natural amphitheater outside of Denver. And there is a Christian preacher, Reverend William Conover. He's getting set up for a service, a sunrise service in the morning. And he seems to be a decent chap, and the workers are pretty faithful there, and then they're being treated well in terms of being fed also while they're working away. And then this character, Josie Thomas, who is Harry Palmer's partner, turns up, so we know that that is going to turn into something, because she is also infected by the brood. And then we get this page and a half scene with Conover, where we learn that he is indeed a good guy. And when he hears from his wife regarding what's going on in Denver, we get this interesting speech that Claremont puts in his mouth when she says mutants, the radio says, are involved in the battle. And he says, might as well say blacks or midgets or women or Martians. The accusation would make as much sense. They're so like us, these mutants, he says, yet as different as can be. So easy to fear them, to think of them solely as a threat to human hegemony over the earth. Aren't they? His wife asks. No more, I suspect, than children are to their parents. You love them when they're young and growing. You marvel at the wonder of their existence until you start to realize they're young and you're not. They'll see and experience things you never will. They're the future, and suddenly you're the past. It hurts. You resent it, resent them. And the love isn't quite so absolute anymore. And for a few, sadly, it turns to something else. So this is an interesting perspective on the situation of mutants in the Marvel Universe, and how reviled they are by some in the universe, and how the mutants are a metaphor for prejudice and bigotry now in Claremont's writing on the books. And it also is revealed that an affliction that his wife has is that she's got arthritis, and Conover would do anything if he could have that cured for her, but his love for her is sufficient, as she says there. Then the scene switches back to Denver, and this fight between Colossus and Brickbat. Pretty exciting and dramatic imagery here. And also we learn that Roma was as good as her word to the X-Men when she said that they would be undetectable by any technology. So even though Colossus is going at it here with Brickbat, he's not showing up on the TV screen, which is a mystery to the camera operator and the guy back in the radio truck. Then our scene switches to Storm, and I like this sequence here where she's flying over Denver with Dive Bomber in pursuit, and just this classic 6-panel page, and how Silvestri lays out Dive Bomber taking on this plane, destroying the engines, and then basically leaving Storm in a position where she has to use her powers to land the plane and safeguard the humans aboard. So just nicely laid out here. The storytelling by Silvestri, stunning. And then, yeah, we get the outcome there where Storm manages to use her powers to create an updraft, which brings the plane gently down. The passengers all deplane here. And then Dive Bomber comes in and sucker punches her from behind. And now we get one of the most interesting sequences in this particular issue. We have our wavy panel border here to suggest that this is in some special mode. What is it? We don't know just yet. And the setting is God's country, Alaska here. And we have Madelyne Pryor with wings flying. And remember, Madelyne was a pilot by profession. And here she is alighting to the ground to the house that she shares with her husband Scott Summers and their child Nathan, and they kiss and everything's perfect for her, but something is awry. And then we snap back to our real world perspective, the X-Men's hideout in the Northern Territory of Australia, and we see that Gateway has come down from his hilltop into the town and is sitting over Madelyne, who in the previous issue struck one of the computer screens of the computer room, which backfired and knocked her unconscious here. So now we know that this is a kind of a dream state that she's in. And then Gateway enters into her dream and swings his bull roarer, and then the scene switches to the introduction of this blank mannequin figure after Cyclops takes out Gateway. And Cyclops is attracted to this mannequin figure and kisses her. And then he turns to Madelyne and says to her, "Time to lose those wings, Maddie. You're not supposed to have them anyway. You can't really fly. You're not special like us. You're only human." So he rips away her wings. And then he takes the baby from her, gives it to the mannequin, takes her hair. This is a really freaky couple of pages in terms of what's going on here. Takes her lips, takes her nose, takes her eyes, and puts them on the mannequin, revealing the mannequin to be Jean Grey. And basically he says to her, "I love Jean Grey, Maddie. Always have, always will. When I thought she was dead, I felt like someone had ripped out my heart. It was wrong of me to turn to you to take her place. I never meant to hurt you, but once I discovered Jean was alive, I had to go back to her. I'll never lose her again. Goodbye, Maddie." And they take off wearing their X-Factor uniforms. And Madelyne's left behind with no mouth. And the narration says she would scream, but she has no mouth. And nothing, being in a nowhere place, abandoned and alone. Very grim. And this is all foreshadowing or setting up for the next major storyline after the X-Men in Genosha. So we're getting the setup here in terms of what is going to motivate Madelyne emotionally in that subsequent storyline. Then we're back to Denver and the ongoing fight between the X-Men who are not infected by the Brood. So we see Dazzler there, Longshot. We haven't really seen much from them in this particular comic. Havok here still wrestling with the fact that he has an awesome power as plasma blasts, but he daren't use it on the Brood because he's worried about the fact that they're possessed humans and they'll be killed if he uses his power. But then Storm appears in battle with Dive Bomber. They fly through this billboard advertising Reverend William Conover's upcoming sunrise sermon or service. And finally Havok lets rip with a plasma beam and takes out Dive Bomber, kills him in fact. And the beam itself cuts through Dive Bomber and takes down this building. And that was the building in which Colossus and the Brood Brickbat were last seen fighting. So Havok is concerned that about Colossus. Something's moving, but which one is alive, Colossus or the Brood? And it's Colossus. So just awesome triumph by Colossus there over the Brood. And here we have the Brood regrouping around Palmer. So we've got our infected X-Men, Rogue, Psylocke and Wolverine. And they regroup as Havok, Storm and Colossus confer over the body of Dive Bomber, who transforms back to his human form. And Havok is really upset because this is the one thing he says he first feared. He has always feared since his power first manifested, using it to kill. But Storm basically argues with him that whoever he was, his life ended the moment he was implanted with a Brood egg. You merely put him out of his misery and perhaps saved others from sharing his fate. This man deserves to be mourned, Alex, but it was Harry Palmer who killed him, not you. And those others of the rest of the Brood gang, what about them? Havok asks. If one survives, my friend, especially the Queen Host, the Earth is doomed. So this reiterates a point that Storm made in the previous issue. And also it reveals this badass characterization of Storm, who is now so pragmatic in her views after all of her character development over the previous years. And we're winding up for the conclusion now of this particular issue, a trilogy, as it turns out. And readers back in the day only had to wait 2 weeks for the conclusion. In the letters page, there's a letter here about X-Men 221, so that's as far back as they're talking about on the letters page. So there you go. I hope that you enjoyed this video video review of X-Men 233. If you did, please like the video, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this.